Hi creators, so today we're going to be making something a little bit different. We're going to use the warp tools in Fusion to make the photo that we're going to download look like this. Or this. It's kind of a cool effect, and I'm going to walk you through each step of the process to make this, so stay tuned. Okay, first you're going to need a photo to work with, and I was able to obtain my photo from a site called Pixels, and it's a free, royalty-free type website for images and that. And this came from the awesome photographer or creator named No Name, and so it's a kind of a wallpaper of a nature sky sunset mountain 66997, so you can check that out if you'd like. I already have the image loaded into the master bin, so it's right there. We'll just pull it down into our timeline, and I would like to make this actually an 8-second clip. So I'm going to pull the image out 8 seconds to hit that time marker. Actually, let me show you this real quick. And so if we go down to the Resolve FX, we can find some different options. Here we go, the warp. Okay, so we can just drag that down onto our image, and we'll need to open this Open FX tab over here, and we need to click Animate. So we're going to see a water effect on top of our image. It's almost like the image is underneath the water, so we can see the water on top of it, and we can make some adjustments here. So that's really not what we're going to create today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that, and I'm going to remove that ripple effect, and we're going to open this now in actually Fusion itself. And so I have my media in, media out already created for me. I'm going to go ahead and break that link. And so I'll bring my media up here so we can just take a look at it. So I want to do a couple things here. So first of all, I'm going to create a transform node. And I'm also going to create a blend. I'm going to break that one. I'm going to make a duplicate of that. Control C. Control V. So now I have that one to use. I want to feed this information into the actual ripples. So I'm going to go Shift Spacebar Ripple. I'm going to add that as well to this transform. And so we want to go from the actual output into this yellow one, which is the source. That's pretty important. And so now I can connect my blend. And I'm also going to connect the media to this blend as well. So we're going to use that same image for both of these. And next I want to go ahead and add two shape tools, Shape 3D, and I can drag those over or key those in as well. Go out of the blend into the shape. Same with this one. Okay. And now I want to add a merge, 3D merge into here. And so we can just drag it from here if we'd like. And I'm going to connect both of those shapes. And I'm just going to set up my flow here, and then I will go in next and make my adjustments on all these settings. And so I'm doing a 3D scene to basically put a camera in here. So I'm going to add that next. And I want to add the output of the camera into this merge as well. We'll obviously need a 3D render. And back to my media out. And so now I have a kind of a full group there. Everything's not really connected very well, but we're going to do the work now to do that. And so the reason I did some of these things, obviously I'm just using the media to feed information to both of these branches of the flow. And I'm creating a 3D object, and I'm adding a blend so I can use my image as a color source, a diffuse source for the blend into the 3D object, which is just basically a billboard, a plane. And on this branch I have two extra nodes. One is a transform, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in just a minute. And obviously the ripples, and that's where we get our water effect. And we have the 3D camera just to position our camera so we have a good angle for our shot. And also we have the render and then media out. So this is a pretty simple flow setup. And so we want to do some things here in the actual layout of these objects. So we can see our merge here, and I want to take, this one is going to be the one that stands up. So I'm going to push this one back a little ways. That should be pretty good. Just a little more. And then this one, I have it set up down here. I'm going to rotate this one 90 degrees on the x-axis, so it's laying down flat. And so now I kind of have one of these images flat, under, kind of laying with the camera, and a billboard in front of the camera. So I want to move this one that's laying down flat. I'm going to get a little bit closer to this image, but I want to use the transform first, and I want to set the aspect ratio up to a 3. I'm going to basically stretch this thing out. If we're looking at a reflection off the water, we're not going to see it as a 1-to-1. And so depending on the angle, we're going to see probably more of an elongated view of the image. So that's why I'm laying that down. I'm using a 3-to-1 aspect ratio. So I want to take a look at what this is doing to my image in this side. And I need to put this at a different location. And so I'm going to go into this window. And basically, I need to just move this up so I can have my image edge, so I can just meet the edges together. So I'm going to slide this up a little bit and get that edge to show up right on the edge there. Too far. Okay, that's pretty good. Now that I've got that matched up and I have our billboard here in the background, I need to get these edges completely lined up. So I'm going to go to work there. You know, positioning tools in Resolve are not super easy to use. Nothing like SketchUp or other 3D programs, but you can get things to work. It just takes a little bit of patience. And so thanks for being patient with me. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so now we want to set up our camera. Let's see where we're at with the render first. We're a little bit off here. Set that to camera 1. And I'm not using any of the lighting or shadows for this shot, so you can leave these off. And I'm going to just render it in the software render, just so if you guys have a lower powered machine, you can see that it will do that for us. So I want to move this camera. Let's actually look at the merge here. And so let me back up. We are sitting right on top of everything. I want to pull this back. Rotate that down. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. And so now the only thing left that we need to do is we want to go in into the ripples and set the settings that we want for the desired look. And so I'll go over the parameters of the ripple warp tool. So I'm going to set this as circular because I want kind of a circular pattern going into the shore. And this is just a sine wave shape. And this shine is that little white facing that we see at the top of the waves. You can turn that off or turn it on. You can see that'll stay there or go away. If you want to use it, it gives a little bit more of a, I want to call it like a cartoony look. And so you're definitely going to want to turn down some of the settings. And so that's the size, and then this is the strength. So we can blend that a little bit more if we pull that back a little bit, the actual strength. And so it's important that we select the animate button. That's going to make the waves actually move. If we don't select that, it's going to be static. That's super important. And I want to change my speed down to 0.08. Just slow that down a little bit. Actually, let's go 0.7. Okay, and now we have this location of this little guy here, kind of looks like a little gray star, is the location that that will show up, basically is creating our waves. You can see it's centered over this point, and it's creating those waves right there. That's the Y direction. And then this is the X direction, side to side. Okay. So those are some different ways to move that around. So you can see it's kind of right there. And I don't love that spot. I'm going to move it. I'm going to adjust my focal length of my camera just a little bit, and so we can get the proper view. I don't want to have my view of seeing these ripples going both directions, so I want to get that camera just a little bit out in front of there. And so we have that now. And so the other settings on the ripples that might be important for you are, so we have the amplitude, and I'm going to bump that up. Actually, I'm going to leave that at 0.45. And then the frequency is going to be the amount of the waves per time. So we have 75 is the default. I'm going to slow that down just a little bit. I'm going to go down to 65. And then the decay rate will be how fast these waves dissipate. And I usually leave the phasing at 0. And as you can see, there are additional ripples. So there's one source of ripples, or we can add multiple if you want to have some turbulence. In this case, I'm just going to leave the one ripple effect. And once you have your settings set, the next thing that you need to do is you can preview that here to see your ripples, or you can go ahead and it takes a little bit to render. It is a 3D scene. You can cache that if you want. But you just need to go in. We already had it set up to the media out, so now it's in here. And then we can go ahead and go to delivery. So here's the second project using the ripple effect in Davinci Resolve. And so I already have it set up, and I'll go through each of these nodes so you can replicate this if you'd like. And so first of all, I made a gradient sky. And so I just used a background tool, pulled in a background, and then I applied a gradient to that, selecting a darker blue at the top and a lighter blue at the bottom. And this is just a linear gradient. And so this line here will select your gradient. And so if you go shorter, it's going to move that blue down. I wanted to get my blue higher to the top to kind of give it some difference from the water there. So that's pretty good. And so I applied this background directly into a shape. So this is just a billboard of the sky there. And so you can take a look at that. And so just bring that into the actual Shape 3D material. Your background gradient will become that material. For the actual ripple effect, I made an image, just a rectangle, and it's basically a 4K size. I did it in Inkscape, which is a free program. I could have done it in Photoshop or a number of other programs, but I basically just set the background for approximately a 4K size, and so you can see the dimensions there. It's 3780 by 2117. It doesn't matter. As long as you make it bigger than HD or at least HD, that's going to set the size, and that'll give you some definition there. And then I took that out and into the ripple effect, and you can see that the size is the same for that, and used those as basically a texture. So I imported those into the color, diffuse color material into the blend, and then those into another billboard. And so Take a look at that. So, and I laid that one down at a 90 degrees on the x-axis. And so that's actually what is receiving the ripple effect. And so I didn't use any specular. We could have done that and created some reflection and done some things like that, but I kept this pretty flat, pretty simple. We also have the 3D text, and I'll drag that up into the window. And this is just a straight 3D text, and I just called it waves. We could type in anything we wanted here and it would change it. So let's do that. You could do anything you want. And then I placed that 3D text a little bit down into this water here. So when I made the rectangle, I made it semi-transparent in Inkscape. I didn't have to do that because when we place this material into the blend, we have the option to reduce the opacity. So I could have done it there. So you can just bring in basically a rectangle. I would advise making that a blue rectangle, kind of the color that you want for the water, because what happens when you bring in this blend, you can set the color, and so I can do that, and I can change the color of the water, but it really changes kind of those ripple effects more than anything else. And so we want those to be somewhat the color of a white or a light blue color. So if we leave that white, it will do it. What's interesting is with this rectangle, the reason I had to make it outside of Resolve, I try to use a background tool into the ripple and into the blend, same pattern here, but I did not get any animation of the actual ripple. I got a static image of the wave lines here, but I could not get it to animate for whatever reason. I'm not sure if that's a glitch or if that's on purpose. But so don't use your rectangle tool. It won't work for animation. You'll need to bring in some kind of a image of a rectangle to get that to work. And so we talked about the billboard, laying that down. We have the text 3D, and I put a spotlight in there just to get some extra light kind of here in the center. And of course we need a camera placed, and I'll go ahead and show you. So I have the camera back here, and I just want to get a downward look onto that kind of that transparent water with the waves, and then the text kind of semi-submerged on the scene with a little bit of the sky in the background. You can move it however you want, and just remember to keep your background in the view. So if you go too far, then you're going to lose what you're trying to achieve there. Okay, so this might give you a little bit better look at what the waves are actually doing. And so I have a top view set up and a perspective view set up in this window of the actual 3D render. So if we look at the actual ripple, you can see this little gray star located at this location. And if I move the X, it slides around left and right. And if I move the Y, it's going to move up and down. And so if I wanted to position this ripple kind of around the actual wave text here, I'd try to center it. And that's pretty good. And then I can also take a look at the shine direction. And so I can move the rotation of these waves around, or of the shine markers around. So those would go with a light source, which we haven't really set up yet at this point. And so we can look at the vertical shine height, and those are just going to get quite a bit thicker or thinner. And the shine size, we can just make those kind of spread out a little bit more. And then the strength, so we can make those more opaque, lower the opacity, or increase to a pure white. So that's kind of nice right there. So the frequency, we're going to add or lower more waves. So down to a 0 or low number is going to be just a few waves. And as we get up higher, we're going to get more and more waves. The amplitude is kind of how far and how wide these waves are going to extend. And then the decay is when we start losing waves. If we have it all the way up, we're only going to have a short wave distance. And if we turn it way down, the waves are going to extend further and further. And then the phase, it's just the position where the actual wave starts moving. And so we can set that. Like I said, I usually leave that at 0. And as we animate, then we can get that motion set. But if you're trying to do some looping, that would be very important to be able to use that. And so this is the speed, obviously. It kind of looks like it's doing the same thing as the phase until you hit play. So those are the different options on the actual wave properties. So that might be helpful for you. Okay, so then we just have to set up a render 3D for the scene, and I left it on software render. You can choose, if you have a good card, you could use the OpenGL render, and so I can use either. This computer could handle it, but I left it on software just to keep it simple. And so we also need to go into a media out. That will place it back into Resolve for us right on our timeline. So remember, we set that up basically for a 10-second clip. And so actually, you didn't see me do that. I set this one up as a 10-second clip. So once you get it in there, then we can go in and press the delivery and render it out, which I did do that. You can see those renders there. So that's all there is to it. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick tutorial on how to set up a warp effect with the ripples with your images, and that can have a lot of uses for your projects. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you like this, comment below. Take care.